Hey everyone, this is Akira. This is Megumi, and thank you very much for attending our online class today. And we're talking about egg noodles today. And egg noodles, we are talking about noodles that are made out of like really simple ingredients, like wheat flour, eggs, fresh eggs, and just kansi and with salt and something like there's three ingredients. So like it's gonna be really simple noodles, but it's because we're using fresh eggs, like we need to kind of figure out how we can make it into like kind of precise like numbers and recipes. So that's what we're gonna talk about. And Megumi is gonna make fresh noodles from scratch today using fresh eggs. So let's dive into the lecture part first. And I'm just gonna talk about a little bit about egg noodles first, and because a lot of the customers are actually asking, well, have asked us like, okay, you guys make noodles like using egg powder, right? Like dried egg powder, but like we don't have them here. So how do we make noodles using fresh eggs, right? So we're gonna talk about exactly how you guys can calculate and fresh like how you guys can like put the numbers of like fresh eggs into your recipes. And we're going to do a little bit like cost comparisons between like regular ramen noodles and egg noodles. And basically, we're going to show you guys like how you guys can calculate, the cost of, how much it's going to cost you guys to make your own noodles from scratch. So, and making some egg noodles from scratch using fresh eggs and followed by FAQ session. So like if you have any questions, please feel free to send them in the comments. Well, I appreciate it. And so egg noodles, so the ingredients, right? Like it's very simple. Wheat flour and fresh or, like we have powder eggs right over here. And with or without water, like, like eggs, basically it's liquid form. So, we could make like, noodles, just using fresh eggs, but like with like some people like use water as well, for it to save a bit of like money. And kansi, that's kansi. I'm just gonna explain what kansi is like for those of you who don't know what it is, and later, right? And salt and other things. And there are many types of egg noodles in the world, and like of course, like egg-rich pasta and some of the Chinese style egg noodles too. Like they are very, very popular. Like they have many types of them. And Indonesians have their own egg noodles, and they are very, very particular about them. But the probably the most popular egg noodles out there is maybe like Hong Kong wonton egg noodles, and that's kind of what we're gonna make today. So Hong Kong egg wonton noodles, like this is a really unique egg noodles, and this particular egg noodles they actually use duck eggs, like like instead of like using chicken eggs, like normal chicken eggs, like they use duck eggs, and they use a lot of them to make this type of noodles. But like the hydration, like on this chart, right? Hydration is actually it's not that high, and I'm gonna explain why later. Like they use a lot of eggs, right? For some amount of dry ingredients. And so let me get into the explanation of ingredients first, and then ingredients for like wheat flour, of course, right? And so the protein of the wheat flour, like that's hardness, and there's like something called ash. That's basically how much minerals ash contains, and the darker like like higher ash content, like the darker the color tends to be, like when you make it in noodles. And there's another value that you should be aware of, like that's viscosity, and that tells you like how elastic the noodles become. And that's the flour like is like protein, starch, and water, right? And but like that's the starch part of it, and the viscosity, and but when you look at the product label, like doesn't say how much it is. So like you have to like measure it and test it, right? And then if you have like flour that you want to test it for this value, you guys can actually send it send a sample to us, and we can test it for you. It's free. And hydration. So the hydration, basically, that's water, liquid. How much liquid we adding to the flour, and it varies. From low to high. Basically, we categorize noodles, types of noodles, like types like level of hydration, and low, medium, and high, right? And what varies is that, like, the mixing time, lower the hydration, the longer we have to mix. And like famous noodles would be like Hakata Tonkotsu ramen noodles, for low hydration noodle. And medium, that's 30 to 39%. That's like, regular, like, Tokyo style, like miso ramen noodles and stuff. And then over like 40%, that would be like, high hydration ramen noodles, of course, but like, udon and soba, these type of noodles. And hydration basically is, so, you can calculate it as like, the amount of water, amount of, like, weight of liquid divided by the total, weight of the, dough, right? So, and I'm gonna get into that more, into that later. But like, kansi is something that we add to ramen noodles to as part of, like, kind of all preservation, like preservatives, like purpose, right? Like if you add kansi to the noodles, it lasts longer. And basically, there are many types of kansi, but like the basic ones we use is like combination of potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate. Potassium carbonate hardens noodle texture, and has like this stronger kansi smell, which some people don't like. And sodium carbonate, like exactly opposite, right? And but potassium carbonate, when you increase that amount, and that hardens the noodle texture, and so that's good for thin noodles. And if you increase the amount of sodium carbonate, that softens the noodle textures, like that's good for kind of thicker noodles. Because if you have like thick noodles, that are hard, then that's not a good noodle texture. So we blend these two different ratios for different noodle sizes, basically. So using fresh eggs as noodle ingredient, and when you look at the stuff like, well, property, like, or nutrients of the egg, fresh eggs, that typically end up with this sort of kind of percentage, like proportion, like the water, 75%. That's most of them, like water, most of the water, and protein, right? Fat and ash and other minerals and vitamins and like carbs and stuff. But like mostly water and protein and fat. So and we use as fresh eggs. And then but there are different, like when we're using eggs, right, fresh eggs, like, or powder eggs. There are three types of eggs that we use, like, for different purposes. And when we're using egg white, right, just egg white, right, white powdered egg, that has this, if you add it to your noodles, like, it has kind of water resistance to kind of like quality, right? So like if you're making thin noodles, when you add a little bit of like egg white, you are going to be able, like, kind of like keep the noodles texture for longer in hot soup, because that kind of helps, like, prevent that hot water from coming into noodles. And because it's high in protein, right? It hardens the noodles texture when cooked, right? That's uh, that's the sort of like characteristics that, like, that you get in your noodles, like by adding the egg white and egg yolk, right? Like egg yolk, just the yolk of the egg, and then of course, like, it has a strong egg flavors, and it adds the color of yellow. And it's kind of rare that we use this yolk for our, like, noodles, but like probably some pasta, but not like some ramen noodles and other types of noodles. But whole egg, right? Whole egg. That's kind of mix of, like, so that add like the egg flavors, of course, like yellow color, but not as much as like if you add like egg yolk only, and it gives hardness, like not as much as if you add just only egg white, but because it contains egg white, when you apply heat, it hardens a little bit. And so, but like when you think about like, so it's kind of weird maybe like for you guys like who are not familiar with eggs in powder form, but like in Japan like we have like powder eggs, and then they are used in like in pastries, like bakeries, and like for noodle cooking, I mean noodle making. And usually we have like egg white, egg yolk powder, whole egg powder, and there's a liquid version. Like so, basically these are like made by like drying fresh eggs, right? And then but if you add like 3 to 3.5 times the water to it, like we can just kind of make them back to the original liquid eggs. But like, plus the taste is not as good as if you like in fresh eggs. But like the liquid percentage of these powder is that like well, of course, I mean egg white 7.1%, yolk 3.2%, whole like 4.5%, and compare that with fresh eggs, right? And like for white 88.4%, like 88.4% like egg white and fresh. That's most of them is actually liquid, and yolk, right? That's about half, like 48.2% is percent liquid, and whole egg that's 76.1%. So like most of them like is liquid, um, but you have to see that like 23.9% of like whole egg is considered solid ingredient. So you have to calculate it and add that part to your solid as a solid ingredients. And why we use like dry eggs in Japan is that like well fresh eggs, right? Use of fresh egg carries the risk of like infecting stolen virus, right? And that, which like, well, it sounds a bit scary, but like using powder eggs, right? There's no such risk, right? Like, and maybe you can store them at the room temperature, and so the dry egg powder is like useful, convenient, and but not probably readily available in your country, and maybe costly compared to fresh eggs. So if you have like if you're having a hard time like finding dry eggs in your country in your place, then you can definitely use fresh eggs. And to make Hong Kong egg wonton noodles, and this is the exact recipe like I'm showing it to you guys. And then so solid ingredients like wheat flour, like so just the wheat flour, like solid is just wheat flour, and then let's say that's like we are making like 10 kilograms, right? It's a lot of flour, but like 10 kilograms, right? And then liquid, um, so we're using like only fresh egg, like no water, and so the ratio to solid ingredients is 41%, and so 40, so that's 4.1 kilograms of fresh eggs, and that's a lot of eggs. And I'd probably so like this is a weight of liquid eggs like without the shells, right? So I'd I probably expect it to be like probably 100 eggs, like depending on size, but currency and oh sorry, it says egg like but like salt, right? 1% each, so like zero point 0.1 kilograms each, and then these are liquid ingredients, right? And so we learned that fresh eggs, the whole egg has like liquid percentage like 76.1%. So the solid percentage of these fresh eggs is like 23.9%, right? And liquid is 76.1. Like so solid of these fresh eggs, like that's 4.1 kilograms. 23.9% of it is all calculated to be like actually 979.9 grams. So that should be added to the solid, like wheat flour, so like 10 kilograms. So the actual solid ingredients weight is 10.98 kilograms, and the liquid, right, percentage. calculated to be 3,120.1 grams, and so that should be added to the liquid. And we also have like other liquids like that's like calcium salt, each being like 100 grams. So that total comes to like 3.3 to 1 kilograms. So we can actually get that actual hydration ratio to be 30.2%. So even though like we add like fresh eggs like at the ratio of like 41%, it's not hydration is not 41% because like it contains um, like 20% of it is like 24% of it is like solid. It should be considered solid. So um, well, it's probably a little more like it feels like probably a little more than that, like higher than that. But like well, in the calculation, it comes yeah, comes like this. But like so, egg noodles. When we're making like for example like this liquid 40% hydration ratio, water 38%, constitute 1%, so 1%. And then usually we just like add like whole egg powder, right? Maybe like 2% to the total solids. But in case of like using this fresh egg, right? Just only fresh egg, like without any water, the calculation would be like this. So, and when we are constructing noodle recipes, like we use this, we consider like protein for the hardness and the hydration. So like viscosity and starch, like that's for the elasticity, hydration, and the noodle size for basically the noodle texture as well. The bigger the size, the harder. Smaller size, softer. And it's like either like straight or curly. So these are the variables like we need to think about like when we are making our own recipes. And so calculation of the production cost. And so when we are calculating, we're trying to figure out like okay, how much is it going to cost us to make like one serving of fresh noodles, like this type of fresh noodles from scratch. And the things that we have to like consider are like ingredient costs, like flour, water, salt, currency, egg powder, like fresh egg, like how much would they have to pay like to get each of them, like certain quantity of each of them. And labor costs, like of course, like okay, how much do we pay for I don't know, like maybe like minimum wage or like minimum wage. It's not minimum wage. It's like we can't get a good worker, so like we probably have to pay like maybe 20% higher than minimum wage. Like so we can figure out like how much we have to pay for an hour, and then okay, how many servings can we make, right, in an hour, and then that, well, we can figure out the labor cost, right? I mean, yeah, and then like how much we have to pay to make, well, let the worker do the job to make 100 servings an hour, and then that calculate, if you divide by 100, then we have the labor cost to make one serving. And utility costs, basically electricity. But like if you're paying a lot for your water, you might wanna like, well, take it into account here. But basically this the calculation comes like this, like, and then it really depends on like your like how much you're paying like for ingredients and like how much you're paying for labor, which are the most of the cost of the like we're making like ramen noodles. And then if you are instead of like using water, you only use like fresh eggs, right? And then I calculated, and then like of course like it really depends on like local pricing of fresh eggs like in your country or like in your market, but uh, it just added like maybe like 6 cents, 6 cents like in US dollars, to the ingredient cost. So instead of using water, we just use like fresh eggs, right? Then like that just added like just 6 cents the ingredient cost per serving. So, and if you guys are interested in like, okay, yeah, it's like I want to make like, this, homemade noodles, and then like if you're like interested in like figuring out like the cost of production per serving, or like how much you'd have to like consider for your operating costs and stuff, like just feel free to contact us. Like we'll be more than happy to yeah calculate it for you. So all right, so the rest of the slides just kind of talk about like all these like production processes, and these we'll probably just go through with you guys, like, well, while we're going through, like, maybe me just gonna make egg noodles, and then we're gonna explain one process by one process. But like we basically make dough, right? Dough, and and then like just thin the noodles, and cut it and portion it and rest it, and and then cook it right in the oven, right? So but basically the size, right? Size is important, and this is kind of we use for to cut noodles, and then um, the egg noodles was just vary dramatically from in terms like noodle sizes, and but like thicker, right? Then it tends to be like flat and round, and so just like noodle size, noodle texture, like just very yeah, matters a lot when it comes to like noodle texture. So we have to think about the shape of the cross-section noodles, and they're square, rectangle, flat, round, edgy, and reverse cut, and like there are many other type, the shapes as well. So like that affects a lot of the noodle texture. And then of course like curly noodles, you can make that like pretty easily with with a cutter, and like or like you can do them by hand as well. So um, all right, so let's start making the Hong Kong egg noodles, and using oh this fresh eggs. And yeah, so it's a flour. So solid ingredients, like to be explaining, like just flour, right? And then the liquid, sorry, solid like flour, and just powdered with eggs, right? And then that's a lot of eggs, and and the salt and consistency, and so that's it. And yeah, so let's get started, and we're just going to um, mix the flour first, and yeah, so what we do first is that like we're gonna mix the flour only, like solid ingredients only, and while it's mixing, maybe it's beating the eggs, right? And then, well, basically making the um, yeah, like liquid egg. I mean the egg liquid, right? Egg liquid, like egg, and then uh, in there she's adding the salt and consistency. So just trying to like kind of get it like as much as you can to, well, kind of make it smooth. But as you guys like experienced before, eggs are very sticky, and it's hard to actually, because we use this kind of like mixer lid, which has these holes, right? Holes that allow like liquid to go through and come through, right? And then, but like egg liquid, like eggs are like just too sticky, and it like has like some residuals, or like some like something. So like we use this lid with relatively bigger holes, like compared to like a normal holes, right? So we have like a little bit lid with like a little bit bigger holes in there, and like to allow this like yeah liquid eggs to come through. Yeah, with these bigger holes, like it's still there's like some like eggs like that are kind of stuck in there, but like basically you have to have like bigger holes, right? To but of course we made batch exact same recipes um, beforehand, right? And so it's actually like it's even though like it was like 43% supposedly, right? Hydration, but like it looks pretty dry, like for 43% hydration because of the um, the 23 so percent is considered like solid ingredients, so it's pretty dry for 43% hydration ratio. So we're going to feed it and to the roller, and then so it's all eggs and flour and salt and kasi, but like it's yeah, and it's like 43% of it like is eggs, right? I mean 41% of it is eggs, but like it doesn't look um, too yellow. And I think that's the smell, the flavor of the dough is very eggy. I mean, compared to like, no, if you do it like with the egg powder, um, eggs in powder form, like that's probably it has like stronger egg flavors. So we're feeding the dough into the roller, and so the purpose of it is that like we're just going to like just make it into sheet shape first. It's pretty rough, like it's pretty fragile at this point in time, like the dough itself. Um, but it's a start, and to make it into noodles, it's a start. So despite the high well, ratio, like proportion of like eggs, like we added to the flour, it's yeah, it's pretty. It's not that hard to well put it in the roller, and usually if it's like 43% just with water, then the dough is like way bigger, and it's hard to like actually kind of make it into like clean sheet of dough. But like this dough is like way easier, like because um, the actual hydration like it's lower, way lower than 43%. So usually like if it's like 43%, then like we need to like probably widen the roller gap like to this in this machine like 2 millimeter. But we are just passing this dough like through 1.5 millimeter. So that's for the sort of like medium hydration ratio noodles. Well, yeah, yeah. I think the color is very much like, I don't know what to say, like, well, it's more like orange, like kind of dark, kind of pale orange color. It's coming from the fresh eggs. And so the next process, we're, like walk the dough, right? Like trying to like develop the gluten inside the dough. And so how we're doing is that like we are like separating it right into like two separate sheets, and then like combining them like into a roller. So like so we are making like kind of forcing the layers of dough sheet into one, and that's how we kind of strengthen the gluten and dough, and so that gives us the kind of better kind of farm texture. And yeah, so it looks slow and it's actually very slow, and like we are going uh, pretty slow like on purpose, because we want to, yeah, we want to apply like really good pressure dough in this process, so that we the gluten yeah gets developed like properly. Yeah. Wow. So it's very strong smell of egg. So after the first combining process, like we'll do it like for a second time, and so so the dough is this dough sheet is like gonna be getting bigger and bigger like as we do like the combining process, because um, you're compounding like two separate sheets, same thickness, but then because the two separate sheets, but like if it was like a 2 millimeter, right? Then two separate sheets like now is like four, right? Two plus two, four, right? And then we are pinning it at 3 millimeter roll gap, and because like if you well pinning on like maybe 2 millimeter or something, then that's gonna damage the gluten that we've developed so far. So that's that sort of like screws up the our effort, right? That we've done so far to develop the gluten. So it's not good, right? So like we usually do the 30% reduction ratio every time like we roll, and the dough that's coming out right now, like deserves some dusting, because from this point on, like we don't want this part of dough from sticking. I mean, to don't want to stick, right? So want to dust it well, and yeah, and it's like this is an automatic duster, and just it just keeps dusting for you, and you can control the amount of dusting, and yeah, it's in sync with the roller unit. And so the second combine process done, right? We are going to just thin it, right? Just thin it to the final thickness. Yeah, like again, like we are applying the rule of 30% reduction. So we're thinning, like the 30% reduced thickness at each round of like thinning, right? So was 3 millimeter previous roll, and now it's 2 millimeter, roughly 30% um, yeah thinner than before, right? So and from this point on, like we can go faster. We can go faster. because well, for the combining process done, we consider like gluten is fully developed. So all we have to do is just thin it, right? Thin it to the final thickness. So it was 2 millimeter, and again, like thinning it, and that's 30% reduction rate. So like two from uh, from 2 to 1.5. Yeah, so 1.5 millimeter, and so this machine like can thin the dough. Um, you can actually adjust the roller gap like with increments like zero point 0.1 millimeter. It's, it's very precise, and yeah, like for those people like who are kind of thinking of making like dumpling skins and stuff like that, wonton skins, like like make something that thin in this machine. And because this noodles, this type of noodles like fairly hard, fairly hard, right? Because of the hydration, and because of the amount of eggs we added, like because all these protein, right? Um, it's going to be hard noodles. So like for hard noodles, the basic rule is to make it thin, right? Make it thin. Like if you make it like thick, then that's gonna be like thick noodles that are hard, and that's not really good for the noodle texture. So you want to, make it thin noodles. So it's kind of like going to be sort of tonkotsu Hakata style noodles, but like thin and hard. That's a good combination for noodle texture. So now it's thinning at 1 millimeter raw gap. Yeah, that's really thin. 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter noodles. That's pretty thin noodles. Okay, so like thinner, right? Then well, the longer the dough sheet becomes. So it's getting longer and longer. Okay, so now it's gone through like 1 millimeter roller gap, and it's 1.457. So you know, yeah, like noodles like always like bounces back, right? Like after it's gone through the roller gap, so the difference is like 0.45 millimeter. So we can expect that to bounce back by like that much. Um, so we're cutting it, and so like after it's gone through the roller, it should bounce like expand back by 0.4 millimeter. Um, then so we use this kind of cutter, this number 30. That means like each groove is 1 millimeter, 1.0 millimeter. So that's a very thin noodles, and the kind of shape like we are hoping to get is exact square. So 1 millimeter thickness, 1 millimeter width. So width is fixed, right? This cutter. So that's 1 millimeter width, 1.0 millimeter width, and um, the thickness we are aiming to get millimeter as well. Yeah, so Hong Kong wonton noodles. All right, so noodles are coming out, and okay, so wow, that's very thin, and they do look like Hong Kong wonton noodles. That's my favorite noodles actually, um, and then in this machine you can yeah, change the length of the noodles, which determines the serving size. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer, make it longer, like in a bigger serving, right? And make it shorter, a smaller serving. So it's very easy to do that, like just using that volume knob like that. That's a very long noodles, and that's a very short one. Yeah, but like you know, just wait and wait. I see like well, the what is your like serving size for your restaurant, and yeah, so like it just constantly cuts it like the sort like jumping length, right, and then um, yeah, there's a margin of error, but like it's usually like plus minus like 5 grams or so. For example, like or if you determine your serving size like to 130 grams, then your margin of error would be like you should get like between like 125 and 135 grams for each portion of the noodles that you make. So it's pretty precise. And yeah, so like once you put that length, right? Once you like set the length, like and it's automatic, right? It's automatic because there's a cutter that like portions the noodles out. That's like rotating inside the machine, and it's automatic. And when a noodle coming out, like you can actually dust directly onto noodles too, so that prevents from your noodles from sticking while you're storing them. Okay. All right. So that's a lot of Onkawanto noodles. And when you're, so like we usually store them, like, put like kind of water absorbing like paper, like in the bottom and the top of the noodles, and then like, close it, like kind of, to keep the noodles from drying. And then put them in the fridge, right? Put them in the fridge, and they should be good for at least 1 week, up to like 2 weeks. But the noodle texture like change over time. They get tighter and drier. But yeah, but they're good. Like for like as long as you have constantly in it, yeah, they can keep like for at least 1 week to 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks. So yeah, so that's egg noodles, and even though it has eggs, right? Yeah, it can last for that long. And then um, so this is the egg in powder form. Yeah, it's looks may look weird to you guys, but like it's egg in powder form, and like this whole egg powder, and there's like egg white powder and egg yolk powder. Like that's yeah for probably pasta, but yeah, we usually like use them for different purposes, as we explained, and yeah, so we have like tons of recipes using eggs and like without eggs. And so if you guys are interested in making noodles, like certain types like Chinese noodles, like just feel free to contact us, and like we'd be happy to like share some knowledge like on recipes with you guys. So um, yeah, so like unless you guys have any questions, that was what we have for this class, and then next Friday, like I have no idea like what we're doing, but like well, we're gonna have like some page, like special page set up for it, and if you're interested, like please check it out like in the website later, and yeah, so like if you have like this class, like please hit the like button, or like if you haven't already, like please hit the subscribe button to subscribe, and you're going to be doing this kind of class. And for those of you like who are interested in like learning particular subject, please feel free to like send it to us, and then we'll be more than happy to do a class on that. So thank you so much for attending this class, and we'll hope to see you guys back in the next class. So thank you so much. Bye bye.